Ojibwe, Koimati Tayan Di, Winamaki, Puchigo, Wayman, and everyone was Tayan, Wabush, Indibu, Nino, Misi, Nino, as a Scotch Jayka in the Rujah, the Naki in the Keynote. You can advance the slide. Wait. Indigenous, Yoga, Indigenous, Anishinaabemowin Teg Language Meanwhile, we are eating our Gawi, waiting for us to do. Yoga, unappealing, Manu, Egas, Indigenous, Egas, young. We wait to stand to get Indigenous young. No, Walla, Walla, Iniga, Nilena, Gayako, Kakakama, Yedikina. Egas, Papiki Nava, Revelation and Nudu Guardian, Egas, Gawi, Anisha, Papami, Ayama, Sinun, away by Yama. The Gama, meanwhile, we should be quite we wait to now get 2 minutes. You can advance the slide. Meanwhile, in Zion, Minnesota, God's got a spot in Jamaica. And you can click one more. God we down the top of the rail sea. Ni tawi ni Luyan. No Sivan. Ni Jacques Shimo. Ni Rugo Simon. God in the Indigenous. God in the Indigenous. You can advance the slide. In the Revitalization, meaning of the Revitalization, in Dr. Conviction, we want to be working in Dr. very well. Meanwhile, what we say about we just teach them everything they do about the Bible, he is not a law. The opportunity is very done. Meanwhile, he say, you all, Manu, it is very done. In this communal area, when we go behind in the top way to buy, I'll use a little English too, but you know, it's a language conference. In Anishinaabemowin Teg Language Conference, the God of the community can win it down, what she makes, what you do in the Ojibwe and Anishinaabemowin, what she makes on Ojibwe. It's good to make the effort to use our language, especially in a meeting like this, you know. If we use it first, that says who we are first, and if we use it more than we use anything else, that says something too. But it is important to understand each other, and I know even the dialect repertoire that sounds a little different to some folks. But I come from northern Minnesota, Leech Lake, and I really shouldn't be here having anything to say about Anishinaabemowin. My father spoke beautiful German and English. He wasn't native at all. On my mom's family, you got to go really back to my cooties, where all the kids were running around speaking Anishinaabemowin. Even my grandmother, you can flip the slide. She, as a child, although she spoke Ojibwe, was sent to residential boarding school and forbidden to speak the language. As happened with many of us, this created a break in the intergenerational transmission of our language. Now, she just picked it out of the institution and made it back home and married a local boy and started a family. You can advance the slide. Did you not have to wait about God? It's not just those who went through schools, it's everyone around, everyone who had to deal with that in every generation since. The epigenetic indicators of the injuries and the traumas, and all of the extra baggage that we've had to carry. You can flip the slide again. You know, She was born in the Catholic Indian Hospital on the Leech Lake Reservation. She spent her first 18 years on the res. She met one professional Native person her entire childhood. We have 10,000 tribal members at Leech Lake. Out of 10,000 people, if they find one of us to be a teacher, or a banker, or a police officer, and it wasn't because none of us wanted such a job, and it wasn't because none of us were capable of doing a job like that. It's because the colonial systems were that successful at excluding our people from gainful employment, upward mobility, and positions of power. The one person she met on the way was a school nurse. And she thought, and then we go to a game in Ojibwe. Maybe I could do that. She finished high school, went to nursing school. One of her first jobs was coming back home to work for our tribal health program. And she thought, even here, they think we're getting pushed around. Enough of that. She went back to school, got a law degree. She was the first female Native attorney in the state of Minnesota. When I was a kid, she'd bring me with her court. She'd say, just sit there and say words. So I'd sit there and say words. I couldn't remember her court cases very well, but I remember things. I remember that she was the only woman in court. I remember that she and her law partner, Paul Day, were the only natives in court. And I just came walking out there thinking, you know what? We can do stuff. It is the D and the DEI, diversity and representation of all laws, and it matters. By the way, we just had the retirement celebration for Paul Day, my mom's law partner. They asked me to speak, and I had to say, you were the first Native man I ever saw doing something professional. And we were in a room with about 350 Native American judges, lawyers, social workers, and educators. I said, look how far we've come. Think how much further we have to go, and what a difference one person can make. I have mad respect for everybody in this room. You may not know this all the time, but it's important to share. You may be the one person for our kids. And you showing up for what you do, advocating for our language, our culture, our history, representing in your professional capacities, parenting and encouraging our children, this is heroic work. And we are overcoming some incredible traumas. It might not feel like it all the time, but when we look around at the substance abuse rate, the suicide rate, and all these sorts of things. But we are making huge transformational change in that space. You can flip the slide. Washington, D.C. Me and Mom got to do a lot of this out. Me and Bob, he get to do a lot of this out. Me, eight, so they get shot there, I don't know if you do a lot of it. My mom had a law degree in Washington, D.C., and I was the only Native kid when I was going to school for a few years. We always spent summers back home on the res, but I saw tremendous transformations. From time to time, I had these different experiences being a Native person and being the Native person. And there's a certain musculature we develop going through certain kinds of adversity, but when we get into too much, it becomes overwhelming taxes us, it can even cause trauma. And so this experience of going back and forth between these very different environments was eye-opening. You can flip the slide. My parents were on a path, both of them. And there was a time when I was little where we had at our house an outhouse. We had electricity or running water, a little hand pump, wash up in the creek in the summer, and I had wash basins in the winter. My kids think it's dinosaur age. I never had food insecurity. I was well taken care of. And then by the time I hit middle school, my mom had a laundry and a nice house. That's the power of education. Doesn't guarantee an outcome, but it's a tool in the toolbox that improves your chances of access to opportunity. You can flip it. I remember this picture. It's very ironic for me because among other things, I'm wearing a Washington Redskins t-shirt. And I tell people, don't use negative imagery for sports teams and mascots and stuff like that nowadays. The reasons are probably very obvious. But, so ironic, but I remember this picture for a number of reasons. Being the only native kid in my class, the only brown kid in my class, everyone else was either white or black. I was also the only boy who had long hair. And I remember when this happened, just a few months before this haircut, to get that 70s do. And my teacher thought it was a great novelty to have a long-haired boy in her class. And one day, she decided to dress me up like a girl in the first grade. She took the rest of my hair, a little makeup, and then had a good laugh. I don't know why, but I never told my parents what happened. I just came home and I said, "Oh, Mom, I want a haircut." And I got one. There it is. I toughed it out through first grade. Second grade, I had a black teacher. It was the only teacher of color I ever had, all the way through K-12, college, master's, up to my PhD, and as a PhD student, I had my first Indigenous educator, and it was mind-blowing. Always taught to worship the other, always told that success looks like your ability to exhibit likeness. English. And at the same time, my second year teacher, by the way, treated me more like a normal human being. She was left-handed. I tried to write lefty, even though I'm right-handed. Third grade from then on, always white teachers. And I remember stepping into third grade looking at my teacher going, "Oh, here it comes again." And for a skinny little native kid, I put on the best stoic Indian you could imagine. It says here, your name is Anton. What's your name? So they said, in the principal's office, what's your name, kid? Man, I kept it up for a long time. They had me assessed with learning disabilities, behavior disabilities, all kinds of things. Makes me wonder about the assessments, truly. I was just stubborn. I was going to take another hit. And we should not constantly be applauding our people about how good we are at taking a hit, as much as our ability to create a world where we don't have to take so many advantages. Eventually, they decided they're going to have to send me to a special school. And I'm thinking, yes, anywhere here. But I also thought about my mother who, in all honesty, can be quite ferocious at times, and what she might do to me if I got kicked out of school. So they finally asked this question: do they speak other languages at home other than English? And I spoke. Mom speaks Ojibwe, Dad speaks German. They're like, oh, that's a problem. So they called my parents in to this conference that I wish had been recorded. It was mainly the school officials speaking very loudly and very slowly. Hello, we need to speak to issue or a volume issue. I don't know what my mom said. I'm sure it was snarky and snippy. I'm sorry, sir. Could you still say parts of your communication that doesn't make any sense to us all? It's ridiculous. I don't know. She also turned around and gave the native mother got some laser vision test here. Started to speak. That was 3 years of behavior change on one day. A lot of our kids have a day. It's not the same as my day, but it is still there. And it is not enough to encourage our kids to navigate the gates and gaps in the colonial system. We need new systems. Systems that love and nurture and build our kids up, where it's okay to be exactly who they are, where they can learn about and enhance that instead of constantly being bombarded with other worship. At the same time, when I reflect on this picture that I had a haircut, deep down, I knew that being an Anishinaabe was actually a good thing. I was in Washington, D.C. at the time. I didn't have a lot of stuff around me to show that. I was just a kid, but I found a t-shirt with a native on it, and I put that on. And it made me a little hard to tell, but I'm wearing this bandana around my neck, which to me was a cape, because I was super Anishinaabe. We so often beat ourselves up and tell ourselves that we are less than. I think it's a defense mechanism. We are hard on each other. We are so hard on each other. This is hard. There are 7,000 languages spoken on planet Earth, 2,500 only by others. They're even worried about a language like Swedish, which is the official language for our whole country. And if you publish a book in Swedish, they'll buy a copy for every library in the country. They still can't get enough people to publish in Swedish. Well, what does that mean for more marginalized or endangered languages? It is not the fault of your grandparents for not teaching enough. And it is not the fault of your children for not caring enough. We landed here, and we are enough. And we can do something to make a major intervention. So we should be kind to the young ones for bringing their young and playful spirit and energy into the room. We should welcome them and encourage them, and we should not beat them up around ears for being less than. That will chase them away from the things we love more than anything else. We should not be beating up our elders for not doing enough, because they're doing everything they can. You are a complete, fully realized human being. You are a soul who has a body. You are what your ancestors were praying for and waiting for through the generations. You've been given a unique set of gifts, and you yourself are a gift to the world. You can live it. I graduated from high school with a plan to get out of town and never come back. I think a lot of people come up with that one. I got into Princeton University. I thought, hooray, I've escaped the grand racial overland. And the first person I met said, dude, you're native, where's your tomahawk? And I remember thinking, oh no, the grand racial overland follows me everywhere I go. These are the dumbest smart people I ever met. I had a great experience at college, but I finished with the plan to go home and never leave. In fact, I told my parents I know I have a college degree, but my plan is to hang out with my elders and walk the earth. And they said, that is so beautiful. We'd love to pay for that because we're done. And I did it anyways. I went to see this guy. His name was Archie Jose. He was born in 1901. He was too old to serve in World War II. Even his children were born in wigwams. He was about 12 years old the first time he ever saw a white man. That is an American experience. When I went to see him, he was in a little modern house watching WWF SmackDown on TV, not really loud. And I walked in, so awkward and stumbling and bumbling around, and he shut off the TV and he said, "Oh, I've been waiting for you." I said, "Waiting for me? How could you be waiting for me? I'm just a kid." And then he was from a different community too. But he had a dream about somebody. I looked like this person in his dream, and for him that was enough. He said, "Well, sleep on the couch." So I slept on the couch. At about 5 in the morning, he's standing over the couch. "Hey, get up. You got to drive me to a funeral." I said, "Funeral? Who died? What happened?" And I kind of became his gopher. Go for this, go for that, drive here, drive there. I was having so much fun. I just wanted to be in the room. I think it was kind of like Forrest Gump when he realized he could run. After that, every time he went somewhere, he was running and he never thought it would take him anywhere but a bit. It was kind of like that for me with language and culture, right? I just wanted to be there. I never thought it would take me anywhere. But it sure did. So, eventually I did take a job, and eventually I did go to graduate school. And I was working around history, and then doing oral history, and recording elders, and transcribing and translating. But for me, this entire experience, he could speak some English, but not that well. I remember later in life, he drove a truck for a county highway department, and he had a little pension check. So I took him to the bank to cash his check, and he could not endorse the check. He'd never been to school, he couldn't read or write. One of the best educated people I ever met, though. You can flip. And through this process, I was learning a lot, not just about our language and our culture. I was learning so much about myself. That this thought I had as a little kid that being an Anishinaabe was something positive, it was growing exponentially inside of me. We will never be satisfied and equipped for a long, healthy, happy life if we are trying to be someone or something that we are not. The reason that white kids do better in our school systems that are built around a European language and curricular concepts and histories is because it affirms their identity. And it does the opposite for us. But there is a way to turn that around. Language learning is a powerful, decolonizing, and healing act. You can feel it. Nobody lives forever. When Archie passed away, I remember driving over to Round Lake, which is a community where they have ceremonial drums where he was from. And he had a speaker on the ceremonial drums. And I remember on my way over there for the memorial ceremony where they break a bundle and bring the family out mourning, wondering who's going to talk. Because he did all the talks. And I got there, and this is one of his daughters, who was so sweet to me. She kissed me on each cheek and hugged me close every time I saw her. I think as much as anything, she loved the way I loved her dad. And she also had these dark glasses, and she carried a cane, and she'd give a look to her grandkids, and they'd jump and scurry around. So she could be scary, but it was always so nice to me. But when I came in the dance hall, she was looking at me like I was one of her grandkids for the first time. And I remember being a little scared. And she said, "I bet you don't know who's talking today." I said, "Yeah, who's going to talk? You know, if I heard yet." She said, "Well, you are." I said, "What?" I was in my 20s. I said, I'm a kid and I'm not from here." She goes, "Well, I've been following you around all these years. I'm going to find out what you learned." And she had a line of people, each with a pouch of tobacco and a bowl of food to make requests at the drum. And she added, as they're setting everything up, By the way, he never forgot anybody's name and never forgot what they were asking for. I'll be listening. That was my first public speaking event in any language. Man, I stumbled, fumbled, and rumbled my way through that. I dared one look at her and she was went. And that was that. You can feel it. I remember becoming a father. It's so scary being a parent. Oh, these days, Anishinaabemowin Teg Language Conference. Meanwhile, ik heb toegaan, ik heb ook in de nieuwe naam, ik heb gegeven de naam, de schweden en zo, de binnen elkaar. In die bepaalde naam, ik zie wie als je naar de geweten maar als je geen pak af. Je mensen op de af, als je toe in de nieuwe naam, nieuw als je in naam van de naam, hoe doe als je wil, in de Anishinaabemowin. Ayapi, my point on the Keynote, the Distribuki, needs to go in the city, no law, as you know it, me by the people. I'm saying to you, yes, it's working! It's working! It's so scary being a parent because I got one shot at it and the number one goal is to don't mess your kids up, but you don't have any do-overs. And I remember thinking, how can I get this kid this language? Not everybody's going to be able to take kind of journey out of it. And so I said, I'm going to have to do what we did and just try to use it as much as I can. And so I just spoke to her. I remember her waking up in the middle of the night crying around for milk, and I'm thinking, yes! I brought her here, he knew what it is. Manifesto would take a meeting which to be without a keep it up. Yeah, we people wanted to do Obaki, and we is actually the opposite, and playing the opposite on the microphone. Hey, book it! Yeah, she was doing laps around the podium while I'm talking, and finally her voice chirps over there. They could hear anything else I had to share the rest of the day. They were all talking. You can hear wow. Quizzes? Intergenerational. Yeah? I'm really proud of her. Today, she's all grown up and finished college and stuff, but she's been part of the teams working on Ojibwe language transcription and translation work in the labs and other places. And she's teaching Ojibwe and also working on doula midwifery with the goal to create an Indigenous language and culture-based birthing center for people delivering babies in the world. A couple of picks for early years at Anishinaabemowin Teg. The first few years, we were usually at the water tower in, maybe 100 or 200 people. Almost everybody spoke Ojibwe. It was so sweet, everybody speaking our language, like all the chatter and halls and everything. It was nice. Yeah. And they just looked at his fiddle, and they started having just a spontaneous jig session, and eventually turned into a whole album all the way more. You can do the next one. This is our yeah, and here's still that nice, it's just no man. Alright, you can do it. I have 9 children. Got 4 grandbabies, another one on the way this spring. It's been busy. I just started releasing my wife and I threw it now. You can feel it. I like this Abigail Echo quote, where she said, "We are not a historically underserved population. My history is one of ancestors who survived, so I can thrive. My history didn't start with Western civilization. I am colonially underserved. I'm institutionally underserved, and I am historically resilient." You can do it. It's not easy. There were so many things that I could have done. Actually, when I went to college, I was thinking I was going to follow my mom's footsteps and be a lawyer or something. And by the time I was done, I decided, even if I'm good at that, I'm going to be miserable. And I obviously went a very different path. When it comes to doing things, and this applies with our language revitalization efforts of everything else, sometimes the easiest, most comfortable decisions yield a much harder life. It is easier to go party. It is easier to master every level of the latest video game. And it is hard to discipline ourselves. It is easier to eat crap food and cheaper. It is hard to discipline what we put in our bodies. But those tougher decisions and the discipline that they require earlier pay huge dividends later. That applies to saving some of your money. That applies to eating healthy food. That applies to exercise. And that applies to giving some time to our language. That applies to showing up at our ceremonies. That applies to harvesting the maple sap or the wild rice. But it is worth it, because what looks easy today makes it so much exponentially harder tomorrow. And you can see we are all touched and all have family members who have been struggling with addiction and health issues and all kinds of things. It is so hard to come out of it. But if you stick with it, why not get to live as long as someone like Archie and have an extra 25 years of giving and learning and loving and seeing your great grandchildren? It is so worth it. You can feel it. I've been so inspired by our Indigenous brothers and sisters in other parts of the world. The Maori in New Zealand pioneered a model for language revitalization using a nest as a metaphor, where we have a language nest and we put our kids in that, put the best speakers with the youngest people. It was replicated by the Lions. I probably don't have time to break down everything they've done, but it is amazing. At one point, they were down to 1,000 speakers of their language left on planet Earth. Half of whom lived in one isolated island community, and the other half were elders over 70. Today, they have 24,000 speakers of their language. 3,000 have learned it as their first language in the home. They've tripled the population of first speakers and multiplied 24-fold their entire population of speakers. They have 19 Hawaiian medium schools where all instruction is in Hawaiian. You can even make a college degree with Hawaiian as a language of instruction. There's a lot to say about how they built it. By the way, they don't even have like U.S. government federally recognized sovereignty. And they still pulled it off. And it wasn't easy. And they will tell you it is still not easy. But the barriers in front of us are quite systemic. So the solutions need to be systemic. Meaning, we can't just pray, although we should pray. We have to do things. Take thoughtful, meaningful action. Schools have been used to oppress our people and eradicate our languages. In all honesty, schools are still used to oppress our people and eradicate our languages. They are. But it is possible to take that vehicle and turn it around as a place to empower our children and teach them who they are in our language. And so, based upon some of the successes that they have, and by the way, the successes are tremendous. Like, sometimes people are skeptical. Like, if I send my kid to school all day, every day in Hawaii, how are they going to know English and then go off and be good in that world? Which is another way of saying they have to be good at whiteness, too, or first, and then they can do some enrichment. But have a little faith. The high school graduation rate from Maui, their flagship Hawaiian medium school, is 100%. All their kids graduate. Can anybody show me a provincial school with a data set like that? And if not, then maybe we should pay more attention to Indigenous language medium instruction. It seems to deliver on all the things that matter most. You can flip it. There's Rose Taker, and she was saying, we want an Ojibwe school like those Hawaiians got, and she got one. Ojibwe Ojibwe Language Institute, and they're going to celebrate their 25th anniversary next year. The community where they're located had produced a fluent speaker of Ojibwe since World War II. And they have been doing that now for 25 years in a row. So they have adult graduates who are now doing work in the language space too. It might feel like a drop in the bucket. The school does continue to have plenty of challenges, but it is pretty amazing. And here's a secret to successful program building and fundraising. People with money don't give their money to things or people who need money. They give their money to strength. They give their money to organizations and people that they believe are going to do something awesome. Not who deserves it the most, or who has suffered the most, but who is going to make them feel good that they will see them. So when you start to deliver that, things start to happen. Mackenzie Scott, ex-wife of Jeff Bezos, called about, can I give you $1.5 million American dollars so you can keep doing the awesome things you're doing? I got a line out of it into the congressional budget for a new facility. Things like that can happen. And there are many other examples too. You can go ahead and flip. If you want a little more detail on some of the immersion schools and that idea of how it works, you can check out the 3 video First Teachers Restoring the Ojibwe Language. It's now considered a little bit dated because that thing came out, 12 years ago, 15 years ago. Yeah. But it'll give you an idea. Sometimes we create a new language problem or new language program and we call it an immersion school. But immersion doesn't mean a school where we care about our language. It means a school where our language is the language of instruction. And there is a difference. Because a lot of the so-called immersion programs are language enrichment programs, where we're saying, try saying this, say it like that, but we've already put so much English into the space, it compromises the delivery of true immersion. That doesn't mean that it is inappropriate to do language enrichment, but we need to be clear about what we're delivering, how we're delivering it, and support all of these emerging efforts at the same time that we set high standards. All those things matter. You can flip it. There have been a lot of supports, and all the things matter. I don't think there's a silver bullet solution or a linear let's do this and that and that and that. If someone's got passion to write a book, write a book. If somebody wants to go campaign for bilingual signage, we even got a job right here, word for that is St. Michael. And he went around to all the schools and hospitals and businesses in our area to convince them all to put their signage up at least bilingually in Ojibwe and English. So there's a hospital regional event center you can flip. Got it on the police cars in the town of Bemidji. 25% of the town's native, but all the police cars say WHA and protect and serve. That doesn't solve all the big problems, but it creates a little opening that heightens the visibility of all of us. You can flip it. There's some really cool efforts, and no one has a monopoly on all the cool efforts. I mentioned in my session this morning briefly that the Cherokee Nation, which by the way has 466,000 tribal members, it's almost 500,000 people. They have an annual language budget of $17 million. And they created an adult immersion program where they will pay a living wage to a cohort of a dozen students and a dozen fluent speakers that commit to spending 40 hours a week together for 2 years in a row. Full benefits and insurance and everything else. And they come out, if you know your actual world language standards, at advanced low, which is a high level of fluency. And they start a new cohort every 6 months. Which means every 6 months there's a dozen more fluent speakers in their community. And with the budget and planning they have, they will be able to keep that up for the foreseeable future. I've been looking at some of the Canadian treaty settlement funds. I think it was $10 billion for the Intergenerational treaty, and that's just one example. The Cherokee are spending $17 million a year and getting a dozen fluent speakers a year. What would it be worth to you in your community to have a dozen fluent speakers every single 6-month period coming into your community? I think it would mean a lot. I think it would be worth a lot. And I understand that a lot of tribal citizenry says, we've suffered enough, I want my check. But with half the tribal citizenry living off reserve, nobody's going to remember 30 years from now that grandma got a nice truck. But they will see the transformational change if you're pumping a dozen fluent speakers into your community every 6 months. And that's just one example of one intervention. You actually have the financial capacity to do many interventions. Many. From adult immersion, it's highly valuable, to child immersion, to daycare, to publications, all kinds of things. I came to a meeting in Mille Lacs, so for those of you who don't know the geography, Mille Lacs is in central Minnesota, so it's a little over 2-hour drive for me. And so Mille Lacs folks, let's go. It was so cool. I've been coming to Mille Lacs for so many years for ceremonies, mainly. And, you know, for those who aren't aware too, Mille Lacs is also a very successful gaming tribe, and they've been really smart with their money. That also is a clinic for any First Nation or Native American tribe on responsible stewardship of resources. They save half their money from the first casino. Their endowment produces more money in the gaming. They have a diversified business plan. They said, why are we sending all of our money to a job bank? They bought a bank. They bought numerous hotels in the Twin Cities metro, so it's on and off res, and lots of other things too. There's more to say about how and what. I came to the meeting because they said we have some money left over in our workforce development funds. Some of this was like unspent carryover grant dollars that they needed to spend. And I said, well, they said, we'd like to reimagine workforce development. And I said, yeah, how about a workforce of Ojibwe language educators, curriculum developers, videographers, and let's do that. And they're like, yes. Do you have ideas? What would that look like? I said, how much money? They said, well, at this point, there's $17 million in the pot. Almost spit my teeth out. And then I said, at this time, they'd also done a survey of fluent speakers in their community and they identified 25, all over 70 years of age. I said, you're not going to send them all back to college and bring them here and run a new emergency school for the next decades. We're going to have to do something a little different here. I said, how about this? How about a literacy initiative where we develop books for young people that are non-bilingual in our language that can be used into the emergency schools that are going? How about let's develop Rosetta Stone for the Ojibwe language as a language learning tool that can push to an application on your phone or your computer, and it has all kinds of things that make all kinds of data that are artificial intelligence that can correct your grammar, and its pronunciation is interactive with an app in real time. Questions were, who's going to own this? Are you going to set up a white corporation to profiteer off the attempted colonization of our people? What if somebody wants the recordings of their grandma? You know, all kinds of things. How are people going to have access to this? And so I'm very proud even of the contract that we developed. Also the questions were, what if we got a new tribal council and they want to pull the plug because they want to spend so much money on language? So the contract we wrote had punitive escape clauses so that nobody could kill the program and pull the money back out. We prepaid Rosetta Stone for a service, but the tribe retained copyright to all of the content could be repurposed anything from raw materials and anything produced in any which way they want. They decided that they would make it free for their tribe members, and they set a nominal fee for any awareness. It's a multi-year project. By the way, most languages have a 1 or 2 year development. Some of the big world languages, German, French, Spanish, might have a 4-year, 5-year development. We decided to develop a 6-year development of Ojibwe sequence lessons for Rosetta Stone. And all the elders and all the young people would be paid directly by the corporation. There's a lot more to say about the mechanics of this. By the way, in this group includes anyone on this internet who's one of the lead curriculum developers for the project. I mean, yes, he's a beast. Almost 5 a.m. cranking every day. He's really incredible. And there were so many things that happened. The pandemic happened in the middle of work. So we had to send a computer and a grandchild to every elder's home. And it was ridiculous. I've been thinking a lot about Anishinaabemowin. She's one of the esteemed elders, sometimes called walls, the little ladies. Because she passed away the day before yesterday. But I remember calling her up for the work session. And she said, oh, Denise, what was I cut down, you know, and the music, the walk, and the music on. She said, I told you about the work session, I'm like, oh, I'm in the casino. I said, casino, there's a pandemic, you gotta stay home and be safe. Well, then there's more work, that's worse. So she goes, oh, we worked for about 3 hours, and then she said, I'll talk to you about the job. My niece has been waiting in the car the whole time. That's how they were super dedicated. Incredible. We lost 6 of the 25 fluent speakers during the pandemic. That was 20% of the fluent speakers in the class. No joke. When we finally came out of it, we had all these books to celebrate. The first, releases of Rosetta Stone to celebrate. We had a tornado lady, he's on the left, the Buzz Cut ceremony, we asked him to speak. And he kind of flirted me, oh my gosh. He said, You know, we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot the past few years. We've been through a lot the past few 100 years. But I have to say, seeing all of these young people coming around, seeing what they've been able to build, knowing that our elders will be teaching people our language for hundreds of years to come, I have to say that this has been a fabulous time of my life. The Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe can then turn around and say, we hire all kinds of people of all kinds of backgrounds. We expect all of them to demonstrate this level of competency in our tribal language. Here's the tool to do it. The assessments are built right in. We have 1 year from day to hire. Welcome to our sovereign nation. Revitalization is not just about another pretty bird sounding in the forest. It is about sovereignty. So often we are begging the Canadian government for permission to forget about the white paper and empower us with sovereignty. We manifest our sovereignty. In the United States, I'm sure Trump will come after us too. But we manifest our sovereignty. It's what we do, build, and speak. It is way to not, it is shaken and not, it is way and not. You can flip. There's Bernard Moves, Lee Staples. By the way, we brought in John Nichols. He's a linguist who's done some work with Ojibwe. In the Language Warriors Manifesto book, there's some guidance on how to use linguists and not to be used by linguists in another corporate conversation. You can flip. Some of the books, you can flip again. Go ahead, one more. Here's Carol. One more. Elfrida, when she saw the books that she had published, it made her cry. Happy tears. You can flip. There's all kinds of cool stuff. I had to put that one in there because I'm an indigenous. Yep. But Pat was talking to us last year at Indigenous about Star Wars adaptation. For Ojibwe, you can flip again. That picture. I'm going to brag at this guy for just 1 second because we're both part of this organization called the Loose Indigenous Knowledge Fellowship, and he had an idea, like how do we address teacher shortages, recruit more people to the movement, and he had this idea about building a nonprofit organization to be able to drive diversity throughout the region and to help disseminate information, tools, resources, and he built a nonprofit organization. They've had millions of dollars in grants, and they are doing exactly what he envisioned. And that's all happened in about 2 years. It's amazing. Yeah, some of these sessions we're talking a little bit about teacher training, plans and dreams, and partnering with different higher institutions. All right, we can flip. You know, the Seminole tribe in Florida were one of the first to kill it on tribal game. They bought the Hard Rock Cafe enterprise. They operate businesses in many countries around the world. And if you ask them, what keeps you up at night, they always say the same thing: language and culture loss. We got to make sure we are not only paying attention to economic development and sovereignty and get to the top and look around and go, oh my God, we climbed the wrong mountain. We should have been paying attention to our language and culture when we had a chance. You can feel it. When natives fight natives, white supremacy wins. Dialect wars, right system wars, program wars, lateral oppression, beating each other up. If you want real academic breakdown, check out Pedagogy of Press. You can flip it. The work is transformative for everybody. There's no way to go back to 1491. I'm not sure we would want to. That may be good in a certain sense. But if we are living in this day and age, with the economic, environmental, and political systems that are all around us, we need skills that are appropriate for the environment that we live in today. And there is a way going forward. I have been transformed in my relationships with people like Archie or my own children, and so many of you in this room. And when we are open to that, it is a really beautiful and powerful thing you can live. I've heard people often say we live in two worlds, be good at that one, be good at this one. But honestly, it is one world. When non-Native people come to our communities, they don't have to abandon their whiteness to hang out. We don't have to abandon our indigeneity to navigate the rest of the world. We can be exactly who we are, exactly who the Creator wanted us to be, and thrive. We can live it. So I think about this kid, how he was wounded, but how he had a wisdom that I still try to hold up. That being Anishinaabe is something truly powerful, beautiful, and worthy. It is. I carry it with me every day. I believe in it. And all of our young people, you can flip it. As a view of our family property, I feel like Shrek. That's possible. My parents acquired this property early in their journey, and it did not look like this when they got started. You can flip it. It looked like this, farm fields. That's my dad actually on the tractor with my brother. They started planting trees, you can flip it. And they planted all trees in this picture and transformed the entire landscape of the ecosystem. Just a couple of people with a child in your force. Often we look at the problems in this world, all the oppressions our people endure, the barriers to sustaining and revitalizing our language and culture. But it's not like we need to take this mountain of problems humans have been making for thousands of years and move it right now. It's more like we need to keep planting the seeds, and it can change everything. That is the word. You can flip it. I was talking this morning briefly about this analogy that a friend of ours was using at the last convening I was at, where he said, I so often feel like a lone tree, blowing in the wind, battered by the elements, and when I'm around you, I feel like I'm standing in a huge forest. You can flip it. I'd like to take just a minute. Anishinaabemowin Teg Language Conference. If you're a fluent first speaker, go ahead and stand up for a minute. Anyway, stand up, fluent first speakers. Come on. You are the power tree that is so often been feeling like you're all alone out there, but you are not. We love you so much. We have grown up sheltered under your canopy. Gishben, nothing they came to make and waited in arms, dug up on his shop. Gishben, this is up to me. On the market, I'm going to shop. Second language learners, if you can follow my words, stand up. Students of our language, stand up. It used to just be the people who were first standing. Look how many people are standing beside you. You are succeeding in the intergenerational transmission of our language. And everybody else, if you love our babies, go ahead and stand up. If you love our kids, stand up. This is why we're here. 7 generations from now, no one's going to remember our names, no matter how many books we write, but if our language lives, all of our strivings are worth it. Ojibwe, 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 Vermont, if you wake it enough, you got to be taken in it, you should wake it in it, you should wake it in it, be wait.